What's good, family? It's your boy JustBWise, and today, well, let's rewind a little bit. 6 months ago, I bought the camera that I'm shooting on now, the Sony A7II, and I did more of a first impressions review on it. And the response I got was amazing. Like, I didn't expect as many people to watch it. Thank you. Great feedback. People really liked it. People really engaged. Awesome. Great. Good. But now I gotta test the camera again because it was about 6 months ago, and now it's more of like a first impression. So now I have more of a idea of how I feel about the camera. So I really want to go over some of the things that I didn't talk about then, or that I didn't really know about the camera at that time. So let's jump into it. So first thing first, if you saw the initial video, you will know I was moving from a crop sensor camera to I bought this camera specifically because it was a cheap, cheap is a bad word. It's a high value camera for the price. I mostly wanted to do just filmmaking, so I was buying this camera specifically for filmmaking capabilities. So there were people in the comment section saying, oh, why didn't you get the A6400, which I think is around the same price as this and shoots 4K and I didn't want to keep going through crop sensor, and that's specifically why I got this camera. So moving from crop sensor to full frame was a big difference, but I feel like regardless of what you have, you can make quality work regardless. So I don't want people to feel like, oh, if you have a crop sensor camera, you can't do the same quality work as a full frame camera. That's not true. However, I was looking for something very specific. I wanted a more wide look, which it gets more expensive to do that in a crop sensor camera. I didn't know this at the time, but in crop sensor cameras, even your aperture is adjusted. So brief explanation, if you don't know, crop sensor is just a smaller sensor in your camera, so it crops in the camera, but also it affects your aperture as well. I'm not a big camera nerd. Follow one of the camera nerds on YouTube, they'll explain all of that. I understand it enough to know I wanted to move from that. And also, I don't shoot 4K. Eventually, I do want to go the 4K route, but as you guys know, I'm a budget filmmaker, and it's just not in the budget right now for me to go 4K. 1080p is what's for me. The battery life in this camera is not the best. The Sony W batteries, not great. Not great at all. However, I did mention in the last video that I got the battery grip for the Sony, put 2 batteries in that bad boy. This thing lasts a long time. I've shot 3 weddings so far with this camera. One of them, the battery grip lasts me throughout the whole wedding. The other 2, the battery grip, I've only had to change the batteries out once. And it's pretty quick and easy to change out the battery, so I just swapped out both batteries and I was done. That makes a huge difference. I have shot with the A7 III in a wedding. I rented it to shoot with a wedding. Now that battery lasts almost as long as 2 batteries. It doesn't last as long, but lasts almost as long as 2 of these batteries. So that's amazing. When I do upgrade, I will be upgrading to the A7 III. So imagine the battery grip on that, bruh. Forever shoot, forever, my lady. Next up, let's talk about Lowlight. Oh, I got it on the first shot. That's dope. Stay hydrated. Now this camera is far better than what I had, but again, I was shooting on the T6i. It's decent in low light. Now compared to its sister, the A7II, that thing is phenomenal in low light. It's the low light beast. Everybody raves about that camera's ability in low light. Now, this one's not as good as that, of course, but it does do very well. If you're specifically trying to shoot for low light conditions, then I would say you might need to just spend the extra $500–600, whatever it is, and get the A7II. So when I initially bought the camera, I bought it specifically for video purposes, as I said before. But when people see you enough times with a camera, they just, hey, can you take my picture? Hey, can you take our picture? Hey, can you take my picture? Hey, can you take my picture? No, I don't want to take your picture. I'm a video guy. And of course I don't say that. I take their picture begrudgingly. So enough times I've taken pictures, people like the pictures. Next thing you know, hey, friend of mine needs pictures for a graduation. How much do you charge? How much do I charge? Whoa, I guess I'm a photographer. So I turned into actually start looking into this camera more to learn how to use it for photography. And this thing is a beast. Gives me more than enough room to do edits. And Lord knows I need the help to do some edits. Also, if you guys have any pointers on these pictures that you're seeing right now in the comment section, help a brother out, because you know I need it. If you want it specifically for just photography, do it. And to move from photography to talk a little bit more about the video capabilities of the camera and how I feel now that it's been about 6 months. 2 thumbs up, baby. It's the in-body stabilization, which helps a lot when, you know, you just want to do more guerrilla style shooting. You don't want to have it set up on a gimbal and all that wacky. Oh Lord, my daughter's awake. Give me a break. Hold on. All right, let's get back to it. What was I talking about again? Video. Yeah, video. For $1,000, you're getting way more than you should for $1,000 full frame. Specifically, if this $1,000 deal is still going on, because even during the deal, like last time they had the deal, I got this one open box for like $150 less. So if you can even do a better deal than that, I saw in the comment section a bunch of people had crazy deals. Like somebody got it for less than $700 or something. It was stupid. So that's a lot you're getting. And the theme for this video I want to be is value. This is a high value camera. So if you're growing and you want to get something to kind of get your feet wet, if you will, this is great. If you're just don't have the money to get something else and you have $1,000 and you don't have extra money right now for a lens, but you're going to work toward it, it comes with a lens. So it's not a bad deal. And I would say this camera is still a very, very good camera now 6 months into 2019. Now, the biggest gripe I've heard about not necessarily just this camera, but Sony in general, is color science and how Sony has bad color science and other people have better color science. To me, to be honest, it doesn't matter. Like, for the most part, these cameras give you enough wiggle room to where you can adjust your colors in camera and you can edit. You can color correct everything in Premiere, in Lightroom. If you're doing photos, you definitely like should not buy a camera based off of color science. Like photos, you can shoot in RAW, change everything, literally change everything. So that should not be a reason that you pick a camera based off of color science. Now for video, it's not the same, but this camera gives you enough wiggle room when editing, given the right scenario. When it's dark, yeah, it's not as great, but if there's enough light, I mean, you can edit the colors enough to fix them, if you will. So, I mean, but I feel like the colors are fine. This is straight out of camera for me. What you guys are seeing right now, I haven't done any editing. This is straight out of the camera. I do have my specific profiles already set, which I talk about in a different video. You'll see somewhere right here, one of these things. It'll be up here, I think. If you want to tweak it just a little bit to get your color set a certain way, but I don't think color science is a big issue for this camera. I mean, I feel like it's fine. I don't know if you, let me know if you like the colors or not that's on this video right now, because I think it's fine. I don't have any issues with the colors. So there's that. All right, so I think that about covers everything that I want to touch on in regards to this camera. I think this camera is pretty much a great deal at $1,000. Now, if it goes back to its normal price, I think it's like $1,200 for just a body. At that point, I don't think it's worth it to get this camera. But if you find yourself on the deal where it's $1,000 or less with the lens, best value right now, at least that I've seen. And I'm still looking because I want this to end up being my second camera. More than likely I'm gonna get the A7 III. As right now, it's still my first camera. And yeah, so I always run out of stuff to say at the end. So I think we just gonna end it. So hopefully you guys learned something and were informed enough to decide if you're if this camera's for you or not for you. So I gave you some tools to create, and go be great. Peace.